Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna look at mathematically what is the best weapon for EULA. The new weapon that comes with her doesn't seem that impressive to me, so I decided to whip out some Genshin maths to find out if it's really good as people say it is. Before I get into the calculations, here is a key I made to help explain how the values were used. We will assume you got about a 20% attack boost from artifact substats. If you're using the crit rate circlet, I will assume you rolled a 28% crit rate and 70% crit damage on substats. If you're using a crit damage circlet, I will assume you rolled 35% crit rate and 56% crit damage on substats. We will assume we have cryo resonance and have a 100% uptime on its passive, giving us an extra 15% crit rate boost. For which values I will use, it will depend on whatever gives me the best 1 to 2 crit rate to crit damage ratio. I will first be going over the 5-star weapons and then the 4-star weapons, and then ranking them accordingly. Okay, so let's take a look at the first weapon that will be coming along with EULA's banner, Song of Broken Pines. Without its passive active, this weapon will have a total damage output of 8,373. When we do get the passive, our damage output becomes 9,166. Seems pretty good to me. Just note that this value is not including the attack speed boost. The usefulness of the passive isn't fully being taken into account as we aren't accounting the attack boost to the team. Now let's take a look at Wolf's Gravestone. If both the Song of Broken Pines passive and the Wolf's Gravestone passive is not active, the Wolf's Gravestone will do more damage than the Song of Broken Pines, with a damage output of 8,959. Now, let's take a look at if both the passives were active. Wolf's Gravestone still beats out Song of the Broken Pines with 10,434 damage. Skyward Pride without its passive deals 6,811 damage. With its passive, it will deal 8,990. The way I calculated this value was that I did the damage it does, which is 6,811 multiplied by 32%. So how did I get 32%? This was simple. In total, the Skyward Blade passive will deal 640% damage at Refinement 1. However, EULA's burst has a cooldown of 20 seconds. So this passive can only ever be up every 20 seconds. So I did 640% divided by 20 to get the average of 32%. I hope that makes sense. The Unforged is really weak and I don't know why you would ever run this over Wolf's Gravestone. Without its passive active, it will only deal 7,633 damage. With its passive up, it will deal 8,863 damage. Okay, time for the 4-star weapons for you free-to-play players, or people who are just unlucky and couldn't get any 5-star weapons. Alright, so let's first take a look at the Serpent Spine. With its Refinement 1, it will deal 8,228 damage. And with its Refinement 5, it will deal 9,101 damage. For the Snow Tombed, the actual damage it does without its passive is 7,159. But if we take into account the Icicle damage, it's 8,591 damage instead. If you have it at Refinement 5, it will deal 9,736 damage instead. For the Prototype Archaic, it will deal 6,688 damage without its passive. With its passive, for Refinement 1, it will deal 7,758 damage, which is quite weak. And then with Refinement 5, it's 8,828 damage. With the Lithic Blade, if you hail 2 from Lu Hui, the damage will be 7,646. And if you hail 3, then 8,130. I know we can't get 4 stacks as EULA doesn't hail from Lu Hui, sad times. Last but not least, the Black Cliff Slasher. With its Refinement 1 with no passive up, it will deal 6,764 damage. If its passive is fully stacked, then it will deal 7,967 damage. And with Refinement 5, it will deal 9,169 damage. Now we got that out of the way, let's look at the actual rankings of the weapons. You can see all the rankings here. I won't go over this too much because it doesn't take into account things like skill, cryo damage, burst damage and other variables. This just shows what hits harder when you normal attack. Okay, now let's go over the actual rankings of the weapons that does take this into account. I will give justification over weapons I believe require more justification. In 15th place, we have the Black Cliff Slasher Refinement 1 and Refinement 5. If the passive is not up or you're facing a boss, this weapon is useless. I am not a fan of this weapon because it is too goddamn situational. I will include it in the ranks if it were to be in the ideal situation, but honestly, I think the Black Cliff series weapons are behind the curve in my opinion. In 14th, we have the Prototype Archaic. This passive only goes off every 15 seconds and it offers no extra damage to EULA's skill or burst. In 13th, we have the Lithic Blade Refinement 1 hailing 2 from Luhui. The passive is on the weaker side, but it does get stronger the more refinements you have on this. Reason why I didn't include the Refinement 5 version of it is because I doubt any of you guys got the Refinement 5 version of it, and even if you did, with the amount of rolls you guys did for the weapon banner, you most likely already have a 5-star Claymore. In 12th, we have the Black Cliff Slasher Refinement 1 with its passive fully up. In 11th, we have the Snow Tomb Refinement 1. In 10th, we have the Lithic Blade hailing 3 from Luhui. The crit rate boost and attack boost will make you do more damage with EULA's physical damage portion of her burst. Snow Tomb doesn't affect EULA's cryo damage, so it does become a bit weaker than the Lithic Blade. It's only worth to run Lithic if you're hailing 3 from Luhui, as only having 2 doesn't make that much of a difference. In 9th, we have the Serpent Spine Refinement 1. The reason why this weapon is extremely good on EULA is that she deals mixed damage between cryo and physical, and Serpent Spine increases all damage dealt, which in turn also increases her cryo damage. A truly amazing weapon. In 8th place, we have the Refinement 5 Prototype Archaic. I don't recommend you go for this weapon on EULA unless you don't have any other choice. In 7th, we have the Skyward Pride. Energy recharge is good for EULA as a burst does cost 80 energy, but in terms of dealing those big damage numbers on her burst, Skyward Pride will have trouble getting you there. It is an amazing weapon and I would love to rank it higher. In 6th, we have the Snow Tomb Refinement 5. It will deal more damage than the Skyward Pride because its passive is on a 10-second cooldown, whereas the Skyward Pride's cooldown is tied to EULA's burst cooldown of 20 seconds. However, if you do manage to get a Refinement 5 of the Skyward Pride, it will be better than the Snow Tomb. In 5th, we have the Unforged. This weapon just gives attack and really doesn't offer anything more in terms of damage modifier variety. In 4th, we have the Black Cliff Slasher Refinement 5 with full stacks. I am not a fan of this weapon because you have to get the full stacks on it for it to be worth. If you do get the full stacks on it, it is worth, but it still sucks ass generally because you might be facing bosses or any enemy that does take a while to kill with no small mobs around to get stacks on. In 3rd, we have the Serpent Spine Refinement 5. The fact that its passive also works for EULA's cryo damage is amazing. You will have to make sure you don't get hit because if you get hit you lose the passive, but generally you should be okay. It's better than the Black Cliff because it also boosts your cryo damage. Now for the last two, it will surprise a lot of you guys, but I'm putting Songs of Broken Pines in 2nd place. And for 1st, we have the Wolf's Gravestone. When both passives are down, the Wolf's Gravestone comes out on top in terms of dealing damage. Because of its passive, it gives a base damage increase of 20%, which is crazy. This easily makes up for the fact it has lower base damage than the Song of Broken Pines. When both passives are up, the Wolf's Gravestone still does more damage. On to the more important part. The Wolf's Gravestone passive is harder to achieve when compared to the Song is Broke, and giving your team a 20% attack boost will be a lot more consistent. However, there is an 8-second downtime to the Song is Broke, and within this time frame, the Wolf's Gravestone still does come out on top. So half the time, Wolf's Gravestone is going to be better. Also, the fact that the Song is Broke substat is physical damage is a bit of an ouch, because her skill scales off cryo damage, and the first portion of her burst does too, hence using this will decrease that damage for them, whereas the Wolf's Gravestone it will not. The difference between both these weapons are quite minute, and I wouldn't worry too much about it. But if you do have the Wolf's Gravestone, you don't have to get the Song is Broke. So, in conclusion, the best weapon for EULA is the Wolf's Gravestone. In 2nd is the Song is Broke. The best 4-star weapon for EULA is the Serpent Spine, and if you are free to play, go for the Snow Tombed. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you guys want me to go over the best artifact sets and see how that changes the rankings, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it does help me keep on making videos for you guys. Peace.